Welcome to episode 2 of the High Mark podcast with Damien, Dio, and Kat is on the bench today. So we're going to switch it up a little bit and we're not going to delve too much into deep wrestling talk because the NXT number one plant has a lot to say regarding Lars Sullivan and a few other things. So we're going to save that episode probably for later this week. As always, Twitter, DamonG347, Dio, I'm just DEO. So what we're going to talk about, because Kat's not here, and spoilers abound. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a whole big bunch of spoilers for Avengers Endgame, among some other stuff that we may or may not delve into. So you have a universal spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. So now that the veil of invincibility has worn off, Dio, regarding Avengers Endgame, you and I have some pretty strong opinions about a lot of things: the writing, the cinematography, the story pacing, things like that. So let's take off the fanboy and fangirl hats, everybody, and let's look at it. Yes, it was a comic book movie. It was entertaining, but now the fun really begins for us after the fact because we are no longer blinded by the special effects.
Blinded by the light.
So we'll start here, Dio. Was Endgame the best MCU movie to date?
No, not even fucking close. Like, you can't say that was the best movie to date when Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Black Panther exist. You can't. It's not like I would if I had to give this a score, it'd be a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
It wasn't like it wasn't that great. Like, it wasn't like in the moment. Because the thing is, so this is the thing. Usually people say that things are greater than the sum of its parts, right?
Yes.
That's not what that wasn't it here. The parts, like, you had some parts that were better than the entire movie, right? Like the stuff, like a lot of the emotional send-offs, they hit that shit out the park. Like the stuff with Iron Man and Peter, the feels.
I know.
The tears, that got the tears up out me. Because like everything else in the movie up until that point, I was like, I kind of saw it coming, right? Like out the bat right off the bat when we are introduced to Hawkeye, the moment that his family got dusted.
Yep.
And like I was like, okay, so this is they're throwing us right into it. Okay. I can see how this is gonna go. But like as the days have worn off and stuff like that, I was like, it was some cool. You had a lot of cool parts, but like it felt. You know what? Maybe that was on purpose, but it felt like a bunch of different movies. But then when you actually look at it, it is literally parts from different movies that they went back to get parts, to get the different stones and things of that nature. Which the whole putting the stones back thing was like any movie where you bring in time travel, it fucks everything up.
Of course.
Right? Like as we know it now, we don't know if there's other dimensions per se.
Multiverse.
Like the multiverse and all that shit. So like all of that is a theory that we have, right? Like sometimes it's not even a theory. It's a concept more than anything else of multiple dimensions and things and such, right? So when you add that in, you already have basically it gives them free will to do whatever they want because there's no real rules to it. There are rules that have been set in place in movies and TV and things, but like, that's not really concrete evidence and such, right? So like the whole thing of Cap going back and like putting all the stones and shit back, like the Soul Stone has souls
in the stone, literally.
Souls literally in the stone. And then so if Thanos shrunk it down to atomic level, basically, they're still there. The stones are still wildly powerful, even if they get shrunk down. It's just that nobody knows where they are.
Right.
My order's on the way.
Because they don't talk about when Thanos at the beginning of the movie says he destroyed the stones in the first place,
Right.
they don't really talk about how the stones were destroyed.
Well, he said that he shrunk them down
Right,
to
but
a microscopic level,
they
and
still
nobody's going to be
exist.
able to find them. They still exist, right? So the whole thing of them being like, "Well, we can go back in time," it's like y'all have big brains. Y'all could have fucking gone back to Stark Tower and created a machine to track down the signatures of the energy. Like what? And then just go send it. Like it was poor planning.
I felt the last third of the movie was poorly written.
Oh yeah, no, like it was a sprint to the finish. That's what it was.
That's
like they knew that they had to hit certain notes. And the notes they knew they had to hit, they hit out the park. With the exception of Captain America returning the things. The Soul Stone has souls in it. So now the souls are now trapped in whatever stone. And then this new stone that they went to go and get, now you have two different things. So it's like, do you have two different dimensions? Two different Soul Stone dimensions? Like, which is it, right? Then with Cap, so Cap goes back in time,
yes,
and puts back Thor's hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Not just puts back Thor's hammer, but the Power Stone, if I remember correctly, the red one is the Ether.
Yes, so the Reality Stone.
The Reality Stone is the Ether. So it actually has no form. Like it had to be
re-injected back into Jane Foster.
Right. It had to be injected into a person to become a stone, right? Mm-hmm. So like it opened up all these weird ass doors, which then now has opened the doors to the multiverse, which is another thing, which is like, okay, if you've now created a universe, have these universes already existed, or have you just opened the doors to these infinite realities that already existed prior? Right? Is it like, did it just come together in a snap? No pun intended, because of the movie. But like, did these things come into existence with a history already, or were they already running concurrently with where we are in our timelines? Right?
If we talk reality jumping and multiverse theory, these realities are universally supposed to be running, I guess, parallel to one another.
Right.
So, i.e., if we're having this conversation now in this timeline, mm-hmm. there is another Damian and Dio having another conversation, and once we branch off to something else, that reality will cease to be together, and then we'll branch off to another dimension or another reality.
Right.
So, to go back to what you're saying, and this kind of ties into the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home. Nick Fury mentions during the trailer that the snap caused a tear in reality or a hole in reality. So it might lead to what you're saying about it opened a doorway, right, for realities to merge. And I think that's what's going to be phase 4. It is the merging of the multiverse.
Okay.
If you go back to the comics, where there was a merging of the 616 and whatever the ultimate timeline was in the comics,
right,
and then they became one universe that pretty much destroyed the ultimate universe. And only a handful of those characters made it over to the main 616 continuity.
Right.
So I think all is said and done, not only was the Avengers effing with time a MacGuffin for let's merge the multiverse, but Captain America also effing with time by choosing to, I'm going to go back to the past and make a divergent timeline while my body is, while my body is still in the ice. I'm going to live with Peggy, real persona non grata, while she's still going to work as Agent Carter, if you go back to the television show.
Mm-hmm. Great show, actually, too.
Oh, really good show. And so what, was Cap literally just chilling as Steve from
just a house? He was
from
a
Main Street
dad. Mm-hmm. Also, so like, it was Winter Soldier, I think. Yeah, it was Winter Soldier with the blonde chick who was Peggy's
Agent 13. Yes.
Agent 13, who is Peggy's her niece. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so like, I have questions. Like this is very weird.
Okay, from a dog standpoint,
right?
Cap has literally kissed 2 members of the Carter family.
Right.
High five, Cap. because my dad, never mind. Quick story about why I high five. Apparently, the rumor is my 80-something-year-old father kind of dated multiple women within my mom's family before my mom came in the picture, because my parents have a 15-year age bracket difference. So it has neither been confirmed nor denied, but since, I'm not a schlub, I've kind of put 3 and 3 together and gotten 6 and said, oh, my father might have dabbled in multiple timelines in this family.
Yep.
So, i.e., like we're talking about
some other kids floating around here.
Yes. So, like we're talking about, there's been multiple, Anyway, that's beside the point. But
the whole multiple timeline thing, like it opens up new possibilities. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. And with the Far From Home trailer, great trailer, I must add. Also, I love the fact that they put a stinger in the beginning that said, where Tom Holland explained, hey, this is spoilers everywhere. Like, this is spoilers, don't complain about them. Spoiler. So like, it was great. Now, like, so the thing about it is, so Mysterio is the villain, right? And if you know, supposedly, and that's the thing,
because remember, we thought the Skrulls were the villains in Captain Marvel,
but they weren't. So it's like, all right, so is Mysterio really here as to like help? Is he a hero in that one, or is he the master of illusion like he is in the 616 as we know him in comic books, right? But so it's like, you can't take anything that's in trailers as gospel, right? Because we've seen umpteen times when it comes to Marvel movies, like, so we'll say Black Panther, for instance. Was it Black Panther or in Black Panther, where you had that shot where all the heroes, were coming out, and it was like, oh yeah, this is great, and that shot wasn't even in the movie.
Oh, you're talking about the last Avengers before this?
What? No, it was in Black Panther. So like, was it? Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to think. Was it in
Infinity War during the trailer where they had everyone in the
everyone? Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was like, all right, you had all that stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to get invested in anything that I see here yet, because it's probably not going to be what it actually ends up going to be. Right. So, and rightfully so. Like, I am glad that they do this now, because one of the biggest complaints that people had for years was that they were giving away the movie in the trailer. And that was really more so a DC thing, honestly. But since Marvel was the bigger company at the time, that's when they were like, oh, and Marvel, because Marvel was bought out by Disney, did that. Now they're the big bad. They are the big bad company that, you're not supposed to like. But like, it's a good trailer, but like, I have so many questions about that. So 5 years had passed.
Yes.
So did all of Peter Parker's classmates get dusted too?
It seems like it. From all the interviews and all the people that have kind of spoken on the trailer of Far From Home, and if you look at the last maybe 2 minutes of Endgame,
right,
it seems Peter got dusted, Ned got dusted, MJ, everyone who's in the Spider-Man series from the first movie to now got dusted. Because unless you count, because if you go by the first trailer, Aunt May and Happy Hogan may not have gotten dusted.
Right.
They might have both been kind of mourning together, and then they developed a friendship and a flirting thing, as seen by the trailers. So maybe those two didn't get dusted.
Right.
But damn sure everyone in freaking Peter's high school got dusted.
Yeah. And Aunt May did visibly, I think they put more gray in her hair. So it looks like she did not get dusted. That she just had to deal with that 5 years.
I know Marissa Tomei still looks good.
My God, that is cool.
Do you remember her on A Different World?
Yes, I do.
Different World.
I do. She will forever hold a place in my heart because of that.
Okay, good.
It is. See, this is what happens, white people, when you are unproblematic.
Hi, white people.
you don't age. You
Mhm.
age like people that have melanin. Shout out to Paul Rudd.
Word 50.
50 and looks younger than dudes in their 20s. Shout out to him for not being problematic. See, when you're problematic, you age like milk. Right now, they are aging like wine. It's great. It's fantastic.
And to quote Rick James, the milk's gone bad for some of
The
y'all.
milk's gone sour. But yeah, so like it's there's so many questions, and like the Russo brothers keep on just shooting themselves in the foot. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Stop it. You're making it worse. You are making it worse. First, you're saying, oh, this is the first openly gay character. No, it's not. No. There have been a few characters that have been gay in the movies prior to this. But like, yeah, you got
like
that.
Who?
Or even we'll say queer characters as well, right? So Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Mm-hmm.
So how he was on, was it Ant-Man and the Wasp, or was it? I'm pretty sure it was Ant-Man and the Wasp. But the agent that kept on, what is his name? He is on he's a dad on Fresh Off the Boat.
Oh, okay. I know who you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, like, there's a scene where he's straight up like, so he's like, what, do you like check in on me? Like, you mean like go out, or like, he's like, what? So like, it's like, because like if you want to go on a date, like I'm free, and Paul's like, no, I'm good. It was like, so it's like when you've been alluding to a lot of this stuff prior, and it's just like, this felt very much like some grandstanding. Oh, we want to put ourselves in the movie. It's like, bro, just go sit down.
Well, didn't one of the Russo's children wind up being Hawkeye's family in the movie too?
I think so, yeah. Which I hate when people put their kids in movies. I hate it, like, with a passion, a deep-seated passion when they do that stuff. Because, like, honestly, you're taking away work from somebody whose trade this is. And, like, yeah, that's not my favorite thing to see happen.
Is this one of those Sofia Coppola moments for you?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who do not deserve, like, honestly, didn't deserve all of the kudos and stuff that they have because, oh yeah, like your dad or your mom works in the industry. I hate that shit.
Bryce Dallas Howard comes to mind.
So many have failed upwards. So many have failed upwards.
That's a good term, failed upwards. I feel like a lot of people, somebody actually brought up on Twitter that Riddick Moss failed upwards.
Oh, he's continuously doing that shit, right? He basically damn near killed one of your top prospects who you eventually had to let go because of injuries and so on and so forth.
Hideo Itami, for those who don't know.
Hideo Itami or Kenta.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he did that. He hasn't been able to get anything over. And like, I just don't understand how like these dudes can continuously, you'll see these dudes that will fail over and over and over and over again. Just continuously fail. And when you look at it, it's usually white dudes it happens to, right? Continuously fail until they fail upwards in the company, right? But let like one of the performers of color do one thing, all of a sudden they're suspended or they just get taken off TV for long periods of time. It's like, okay. But anyhow, failing upwards.
Yes.
Which honestly, that's what Hawkeye did his whole life. But anyhow.
Oh, no. Okay, so we're going to switch back on the Highmark podcast, talking Avengers Endgame and the MCU at greater length. Myself, Dio, Kat is off tonight. So Hawkeye, Ronan, Barton, whatever you want to call him, you said he failed upwards.
Yep.
What do you mean?
So one, he hasn't been worth a fuck in any of the movies. Like, shit is shit. Even in the comic books. So, in the comic books, right? Hawkeye was so trash that they had to create another reality to make him awesome. Because Hawkeye has no real memorable moments. if you think about it, like he had some, some storylines here and there, but like, what does he do? He's like, it's at least with Oliver Queen, who is essentially he is the one-to-one translation for in the DC universe.
Yes.
He's got money. What does Clint got? Nothing. He's got a purple and blue suit.
He got kids like Heath Slater.
He's got kids like Heath Slater. So like there was nothing memorable. Like all of this, and the thing is like, okay, you have a dude with a bow and arrow, and then there's a bunch of superheroes, like superpower people. Like same thing with Natasha. Like it's like, okay, why are y'all here? Why are y'all here? What did y'all do? What did y'all bring to this team actually?
And here's the funny thing about Natasha. If you go back and look at her in the comics,
also it should have been Hawkeye that died. But anyhow,
spoilers again for those who haven't watched Endgame. People are raging whether or not Natasha or Clint should have died.
It should have been Clint
in exchange for the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
I would rather it have been anyone else but those two, but that's neither here nor there. So if you go back in the comics, now I know Natasha only came more to prominence, and I know people are going to at me because of the movie. She became more into prominence.
It's true. No, that's fact. But
she was a KGB agent, double crossing everybody left and right. She was only loyal to Nick Fury, and that depends on her mood in the comics. She played with Matt Murdock's emotions because they used to date and shag or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to lie. I pictured her having a Brigitte Nielsen accent. And then when they casted Scarlett Johansson, they Americanized her, which is typically what Scarlett Johansson does, is she takes roles that are for people in other countries and cultures and Americanizes them.
Yeah, I'm surprised that she wasn't in Black Panther playing a character.
Natasha D. Yeah. Natasha.
Like, because it was when I first saw it when she was in Iron Man. Right?
Yes, Iron Man 2.
Like, I was like, okay, cool. But like how they fucked with her, how she looks over the years as well. And like, yeah, it's like hindsight's 2020 when it comes to this stuff, because we've been watching this stuff for 11 years now. So like now we can go back and like really pick the meat off the bones on this stuff. And like there have been a lot of inconsistencies in like how characters are portrayed and accents and like how they drastically change from movie to movie. And part of that is the growing pains of something like this. There's 22 movies altogether?
22, yes.
22 movies, right? So it's taken them 22 movies to get to this point, or 21 movies to get to where they are now prior to this. So like, while I do have a lot of issues with the movie, there is like, to try to like tie 21 movies into the 22nd movie is hard as fuck. Like that's just going to be insanely hard. Now, with I just hope in the next phase that they listen to what we're saying, right? And like not just listen to us, but listen to the writers, listen to, everyone, because like you have the Russo brothers saying one thing, and then you have the writers coming on Twitter saying another thing, and it's like, okay, like what's going on here? Do y'all actually not know have communication, or is this like some sort of weird work that we have going on here? But when you introduce shit like the multiverse, it's gonna do that no matter what.
Well, I remember when the first Spider-Man came out, a lot of people were saying that
which first Spider-Man?
Oh, sorry, the first one, this universe, the MCU.
Okay.
That after I think it's a 3-picture deal with Sony to kind of get and reestablish Spider-Man back in the ethos of Marvel Comics lore in the movies anyway, that after Holland's contract is up, that the rumor was that the MCU was going to wind up incorporating Miles Morales. So he winds up being the official MCU version of Spider-Man.
Right.
Or they change multiverses. And as I talk, I realize they have essentially taken the storylines of Miles Morales as Spider-Man and given it to Tom Holland's Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah. Because the MCU is a hodgepodge. The current, well, I should say the current. The prior MCU was a hodgepodge of a bunch of different a bunch of different dimensions or realities from the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot of the characters are closer to their Ultimate Universe,
Yes.
Or the was it the 1610 universe?
Yes.
If I remember correctly. Yep, 1610 universe or dimension, reality, whatever you want to call it. And like, I understood where they like eventually, yes, bring Miles Morales in, great, but now is not the time. Like it's if you're trying to establish Spider-Man in the in the universe as it is now, you need to have Peter Parker first, right? Like although we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we had seen 5 Spider-Man movies prior to the current MCU Sony shared universe. Because
Yes.
Because you had Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, and then
Amazing
you had
Spider-Man 1, 2.
Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, which Amazing Spider-Man 2 was one of the worst goddamn things I've ever seen in my life. Like why Dubstep played when he shot the lightning bolts was like, what is going on here? Jamie Foxx, I'm sorry, bro, terrible in that movie.
And for those that don't know, yes, it is Earth 1610 for the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah. So yeah, like it was trying to mash all that stuff together. I get that it's hard, but like there's a lot of shit where I'm just like, yo, whew.
So let's put a stamp on Endgame with what do you think for yourself were the most egregious, either writing mistakes, storyline issues you had? Like, give me your top 3.
Top 3 are the stones. How, like, just the simple fact. One, time travel. That is the worst MacGuffin, the worst Deus Ex Machina possible, right? Like it opens up the rabbit hole to things that we can't fully comprehend. Mm-hmm. And being that it's something that we can't comprehend, it just kind of lays the field for anything to happen. And that's not good. Mm-hmm. The next thing was the stones. Like, how? Like, and the other thing is continuity, right? So at the end of the movie, when Iron Man, I am Iron Man, snaps and kills Thanos and all of Thanos' army, did the Gamora that was in that army die too?
No, that has been confirmed that she lived supposedly, but she escaped with Nebula, I believe, because she was never one of the quote unquote Thanos army in terms of like being one of the bad people. This is what I mean about like you're saying about shooting themselves in the foot and kind of leaving weird loopholes for people. Yeah. That's a loophole because now apparently Quill and company and the Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is an actual comic storyline in case y'all didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now apparently in Guardians 3, not only are they trying to introduce Adam Warlock, right, but now with certain rewrites, now it's going to be the search for Gamora.
Right.
Whatever the second multiverse version of Gamora is, according to the number.
Right.
Which we don't know yet.
Which then sets up, okay, so if Gamora is still inside the stone, what happens when you bring her back eventually? Now you have 2 Gamoras in the same timeline. And it's just like, which in comic books, this is not outside of the ordinary. Like, no. Not at all. Like, you constantly have multiple people of of the same character concept being in the same place. Like, for instance, since the Fantastic Four is going to end up being in the MCU eventually, as well as the X-Men, the Council of Reed Richards,
Yes.
where literally you have Reed Richards, who is not just so instead of him being like just Reed Richards, stretchy guy that's really smart, he ends up being like Reed Richards, Wolverine, Reed Richards, Thor, Reed Richards, like Ant-Man, Reed Richards, fucking.
It's almost as if it's like the Venom symbiotes that take
Right.
over every single Marvel Comics character. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like it's just like this. So you have all of them that meet together, and they're the smartest people in the universe, which I have issue with there. But
You mean the Illuminati?
well, the Illuminati's that's another fucking thing, which I do. That's going to be a thing. Absolutely is going to be a thing because they said something. There was one thing that I heard in there, and I was like, yes, because I want to see this man get his ass whooped because I can't stand him.
Are you talking about Namor?
Yep, because they talk about, oh yeah, so the earthquakes off the coast of Wakanda are coming from the ocean. Namor, so the Atlantans and the Wakandans have a very long-standing feud.
Oh yes,
a blood war. Like it's like Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. Like that's how serious it is. So like you have that, and Namor is. People like to say that he's like a ripoff of Aquaman. Like, no, he came.
No,
first.
he's not. Nope.
He came first.
1930s, baby.
Yeah, he was one of the first heroes in Marvel Comics, actually, and I'd probably actually say he's probably the longest standing of Marvel's heroes because you had Namor the Submariner, you had the original Human Torch, which was a robot,
An android, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who I think it was just those two. Were the ones that started that like
the original Marvel team up with those two, yes.
Were those two, right? So, but yeah, like Namor is a dickhead. No two ways about it. He is a narcissist. He believes he is better than everyone else. Some background
for the water.
Yeah, but like not smart because he constantly does shit to fuck up. And like he is also Mr. Steal Your Girl because he's fucked everyone. Damn near every woman in Marvel Comics. He is. I don't even know what the beef. I'd have to go back and read to see what the actual beef between Wakanda. But like, T'Challa's beat the shit out of him a lot,
multiple times.
Like, there's one panel in particular that I always go back to. So there's this. Okay, the concept of the Illuminati is you have a group of the smartest and most influential people in the 616 universe, which was Professor Xavier, Black Panther, Namor, Reed Richards, Tony Stark,
yeah,
Bruce Banner. Who else? Because there's no women here.
There are no women in the Illuminati of Marvel Comics.
Because, of course not. Illuminati, Marvel Comics. Let me get that real quick. All right. The Illuminati. Black Bolt.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Black Bolt and Doctor Strange. I said Reed Richards here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have all of this. Already problematic because it's a bunch of white dudes. Just saying. Except for T'Challa, right? But even then, he's there reluctantly. But there's a panel of like, so there's been wars, not just skirmishes, but wars between Atlantis and Wakanda, to the point that they basically almost wiped Wakanda off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. And like, there's a panel, and T'Challa was like, "Yeah, so I'm working with you right now because this is for the greater good of Earth. But make no mistake, when my needs become wants, I am going to kill you." And like, that's some shit. Like, if T'Challa, for those of you that aren't super familiar with T'Challa or Black Panther, he is Spider-Man on steroids. Not Spider-Man. So he is Spider-Man on steroids and Batman on steroids. Like, he is insanely smart.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the best fighters in all of Marvel Comics. Like the Skrulls led, like literally trained an entire army just to defeat him. And he and the Dora Milaje tore through that army like it was nothing. Like he is feared throughout the universe as this is somebody that you don't want to fuck with, because he doesn't train for one thing. He trains to kill everybody. And that's the thing that separates him from Batman. Because if you want to argue that Batman would know, he would kill Batman the first time he saw Batman. Batman doesn't kill people, and Batman gets washed on a regular basis is another thing that people need to recognize and accept. He gets his ass beat almost every single time, and then he comes back with a plan. Like you can't just,
it's like Vegeta.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's exactly what it is. But like, yeah. So
okay, I'm reading really quick about what started the Wakanda and Atlantean feud here. Mm-hmm. And apparently it started during Avengers versus X-Men. Mm-hmm. So Namor flooded Wakanda.
Yep, that's what it was.
That's how they
killed killed like a large population of the Wakandans. Mm-hmm. And after that, it was like, oh yeah, on site. Like I'm working with you to save the rest of humanity, but make no mistake, when we're done, I'm going to kill you. Like that's not like a like there was a thing in boxing like years ago. David Haye and Derek Chisora, and they got into it. David Haye hit Derek Chisora with a bottle, and Derek Chisora was like, he glassed me, which if you don't know what that means, when you hit somebody with a bottle, you glassed them. And like he's like, I am going to leave. I am going to go get a gun, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to shoot David Haye. Like it was like and it's like, you know what? He's crazy enough to do it, but this is what in the comic books, like that is it. He was going to for real,
yes,
kill Namor. So yeah, like there's a lot of stuff there that it opens the door to that. Also, Namor is a mutant, so that's another reason he is a mutant. That's why he wasn't able to bring. That's why they weren't able to bring him in because of that. So Namor was never part of the Avengers, the original Avengers team when they bought. So
he was a defender.
He was a defender, right? So how all of this stuff, the MCU started to begin with was, so there was like when comic books were super hot in the 80s and 90s, all of the big studios went out and bought the properties up. That's why they were scattered everywhere. So Fox bought the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, right? Mm-hmm. The actual first Fantastic Four movie was in the early 90s, if I remember correctly.
94. Mm-hmm.
And it actually never aired anywhere.
It was horrible.
Well, yeah, it was horrible. But so basically the stipulation in the contract was, if you want to keep these rights, you have to make a movie. You don't have to release it. You just have to make the movie. So they made the movie and just never released it. That re-upped the lease basically for the stuff for another umpteen years until they put out another Fantastic Four movie, mm-hmm. as well as, because I believe Fox Kids was where the Fantastic Four cartoon was on.
The one they paired with Iron Man.
Right. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let me see the original. Yeah. So the unreleased Fantastic Four film, 1994. It's a steaming pile of doo-doo. If you can get your hand on it, it is so bad.
Is that Roger Corman?
Let's see who did this. No. Let's see. Directed by Ole Sassone. I don't know who that is. They don't have a Wikipedia page. Produced by Steven Rabiner. Don't have a Wikipedia page.
That's how you know you're off to a good start.
Right. Starring Alex Hyde White, Jay Underwood, Rebecca Staub, Michael Bailey Smith. These are all no-name people that they just got so that they could do the movie. That's it.
Well, some people would say that the last Fantastic Four movie was of a similar ilk. They just happened to get better named actors. They just wanted to make a movie to say, okay, we want to keep the rights for a little while longer.
Right. So, well, the thing was, so that movie went to shit for so many reasons. One of the main reasons was there was differences between. So the director had one vision,
Mm-hmm.
and then the studio was like, no, we have another vision. So after that director had already gone through and done all of his work for the movie, they fired him, or I think he might have just left, and they brought on another director, which then that director had to go. Now they had to Frankenstein 2 movies together, which is never a good idea, which never works. It just never works. And you had that, there was some promise to it. Like I actually kind of liked the whole concept of how, how Reed Richards, or not Reed Richards, sorry, but
Victor?
Not Victor, no. Invisible Woman.
Okay.
How she was adopted into a black family, actually.
Yes, that's right. Kate Mara's character was adopted into the Storm family.
Right. So Sue Storm, there you go.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed that. I was like, yeah, it's a different spin. I get it. Of course, a lot of white fans did not like that in any way, shape, or form.
It was
but
different. Different is good sometimes.
Different is good sometimes. But yeah, it was a trash movie. It was fucking horrible. I mean, honestly, all of the Fantastic Four movies have been horrible. When they turned Galactus into a giant dust bunny.
It still makes me mad after all these years.
I was like, how they put casting Jessica Alba as Sue Storm was a terrible idea. Terrible idea. Because wow, Jessica Alba is gorgeous. My God. But the simple fact that you had her in a bad lace front with really bad colored contacts, no. And the contacts were so bad that you could see that they were contacts. Like you could see the actual circle where the contact stops in her eyes. And I was like, ooh.
Good job, Fox.
Good job, Fox. Good job. And then the fact that they shoehorned in a Dodge commercial into the shit. So in the last Fantastic Four movie, prior to the reboot, they were like, was the Fantastic Four mobile? What is it called?
Are you serious?
Yeah. So the Fantastic Four car that they all drive in, right? They fly around in, which we know that from the comic books and shit. It's stupid. But they were like, oh, are we going to make it on? So like Johnny Storm, Human Torch was like, are we going to make it in time? And Reed Richards looks back and is like, of course. It's got a Hemi in it. The entire theater groaned. Like it was in unison that everybody was like, oh my God. And I was like, after that, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch any more of these. That was it. I am done. And yeah.
So we're clear, you did not like Dr. Doom's portrayal at all, or Galactus as a dust bunny.
Nope.
Or
like Doom as the Surfer.
Lawrence Fishburne was the voice of the Silver Surfer.
So bad. Like, and the thing is, and that's why, like, how, because people, of course, are talking about who the next big bad in the MCU should be, right? Sorry, I'm eating some grapes. So they're talking about who the next big bad should be, and people are saying Dr. Doom, and of course, people that aren't familiar with the comic books are like, oh, he's a joke. He was terrible in the other movies. Y'all don't realize Doom might be one of the most powerful people in the Marvel Universe in any reality. 616 Dr. Doom is a fucking problem.
Yes.
Like, y'all thought Thanos was bad? Shit. Like, Dr. Doom has killed Thanos umpteen times at this point. Like,
Dr. Doom brought his mom out of hell.
Exactly. Dr. Doom killed his girlfriend to make his own armor. Like, Dr. Doom is what happens when you have somebody is insanely rich, insanely smart. He's like bitter. Batman and very bitter. He's Batman, but without a conscience. Like, I've said umpteen times that, like, Batman's greatest, Batman actually does have a superpower, and it's being batshit crazy. No pun intended. But, like, Dr. Doom is one of the smartest people on Earth.
Yes.
One of the smartest people in the universe. Reed Richards on a regular basis. When Doom's not fucking up the world, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, all of them will go to Doom and be like, okay, so I need help on something. Because that's how smart Doctor Doom is. When the multiverses got destroyed,
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
when the multiverse got destroyed, who brought it back together and held it together? Doctor Doom.
Well, in Doom War #3, I'm looking at the actual stills from this. He walked into, I guess, in Wakanda and spoke to the Panther God.
Yeah.
And the Panther God pulled the Doctor Strange and saw all the realities
And was
ever.
like, that's him.
The only universe in where there is eternal peace is one ruled by Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And like, because the thing is, Doctor Doom does whatever it takes. Like, and the thing is, sure, he is a villain most of the time, but a lot of the time he's an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times he is rightfully angry for doing what he does. Like, was it because he's from Latveria?
Yes.
Which, as we saw in, was it the first Avengers movie?
Yes.
How that shit got destroyed?
Oh, Sokovia?
Sokovia, which is close to Latveria, if I remember correctly, for the geography.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have this gigantic landmass that was ripped out of the ground, fall back to the ground, that's going to cause seismic shocks that are going to fuck up everything that's around it.
Yes.
Right. So easily way, like he can be pissed about that, and that's what when it put him on this path to fucking destroy everybody. But like, he is a villain or a character that has to develop over a decade, basically. He would have to, because that's how it is in the comic books. Like, in the early days, he was just, kind of your run-of-the-mill type of villain. But over the years, it just kind of he learned more. He became more powerful. And, all of that, he would have to be developed over at least 4 or 5 different movies. Like it would have to be done that way, because he does not just become this all power. He learns, and that's one of the things that he at some point, I think at one point he either becomes or is in consideration to become the Sorcerer Supreme,
mm-hmm.
which is like, if you know, that's serious. Like Doctor Doom is the only reason that they didn't give it to him is because they knew he would fucking use it to conquer everybody, as opposed to keeping things in peace. So if I remember correctly, they gave it to Brother Voodoo, whom I actually love him as the Sorcerer Supreme. Dr. Voodoo was amazing. A very good run, because he was like Doom, but not in a maniacal sense. Like Doom would be like, I'm just going to conquer everybody, and that's that. Like Dr. Voodoo he would go to these other dimensions, be like, all right, cool. So you already had a contract basically with Doctor Strange. I'm not Doctor Strange. I'm not here for the fuck shit. So if you continue wanting to be an asshole, I'll cut you off from this reality completely. You can just be off in this pocket dimension forever by yourself. And they were like, shit. But I digress. Doom is a problem, and they need to do him, sir. Like, they've done him such a disservice so many times. They need to cast him properly. Like, honestly, if they casted Adam Driver as Dr. Doom, I'd be on board for that.
Somebody brought that up recently as to who, I think it was What Culture. They were saying who they would cast for the next phase of MCU.
Yeah.
And I think it was Adam Driver was supposed to be the one for Dr. Doom.
Yeah, I would absolutely go that route.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, but like, because this thing, I could fantasy cast all day, and I have some controversial picks for people.
Oh, Lord.
Hey, controversial pick number 1, Wolverine, Shia LaBeouf.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to get too far into this because that's another episode, but why Shia LaBeouf is Wolverine?
Okay, so 1, I want Wolverine to be the size
Short?
that he is in the fucking comic book.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost. So I either want Shia LaBeouf, Kit Harington, who is, and the one that people are like, fuck no, But then I'm like, if you go back and look at the comic books, it actually kind of makes sense when you look at them.
I remember some people were saying Danny DeVito years ago could have been Wolverine. And I'm like,
He should have been Puck. He should have absolutely been Puck. If I were to pick somebody to be Puck now, it would be I refuse to call him Puck, but Neville. Flippy shit.
I can see it.
All right. And Zac Efron. That's what it was.
Zac Efron for who?
For Wolverine, yeah.
What?
So you can't have Wolverine's supposed to be ugly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, who they have as Wolverine before?
Hugh Jackman.
And Hugh Jackman is gorgeous.
He's handsome, yes. He's eerily handsome.
That man is gorgeous. Fuck the bullshit. He's also like what, 6'4"?
Yes, 6'2", 6'3". Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Wolverine's like 5'3", 5'4".
Exactly. You give me a short tank of a man to be. And honestly, if you go back and you look at how Wolverine's drawn, he is drawn classically attractive. Like they just say that he's ugly in the comic books. And if you go back and look at how he was drawn, especially in the aughts and the early 10s, his face actually matches up with Zac Efron's. Just saying, just putting that out there. And Zac Efron is actually a very capable actor. Now, those are my controversial picks. I could go a bunch of different places with that. I actually really loved Liv Schreiber as
Sabretooth? Oh, definitely. He was the best part of that movie.
The best part of that movie. Like, outside of, the other Wolverine movies were trash, but like he was the best part about it. Like he was absolutely, he played Sabretooth perfectly. And if you are familiar with the Ultimates universe, he looked exactly like Sabretooth looked in the Ultimates universe. Mm-hmm. Just a large, gigantic, feral man. And yeah, but at any rate.
And they canceled, apparently they've canceled Channing Tatum's Gambit movie.
Praise Jesus.
Yay.
Because that shit was going to be trash. Bruh, like, the Fox people didn't know what the fuck they were doing with the X-Men franchise. Logan is the only good X-Men movie. I said what I said.
Logan.
That's the only good when you think about it. So the first X1 was good. It was all right. X2, X3 with the Phoenix, and then First Class. Y'all killed Darwin.
I liked First Class. Aside from Darwin's dying, I liked First Class.
Y'all killed an unkillable character.
Because he was black.
There you go. But you had a bunch of nonsense in those things. And when you go back and you look at all of them, when so you had First Class. What was the other one that came after First Class? Was it the Apocalypse movie? No.
It was what the hell was that one? Oh, Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. Trash.
What?
Trash.
Basura. Okay, I honestly think the one way they effed that up was making Wolverine the focal point, not Kitty Pryde. But I thought overall it had potential to be a good movie.
Had potential to be a good movie, but in execution, it was not.
Right,
it was not. And then, when the X-Men came together to fight Ivan Ooze, that was trash too. Hot garbage. Basura. Refuse.
Well, for those just tuning in again to the High Mark podcast really quick, it's just Dio and Damien talking comics, MCU, and apparently he thinks the X-Men franchise, aside from the Logan movie, was basura, otherwise known as garbage, for those at home.
Big trash.
I can't argue with you on some of that. I thought the Wolverine was okay.
No, God, no.
I said okay. I didn't say it was great.
It wasn't even okay.
You didn't like the fact that Silver Samurai was a robot?
No.
Or a mecha?
I didn't like that he was a Gundam. No, I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I did not like it was just like from what it was based on, the fact that it was based on literally one of the best comic books of all time.
You mean
And
his journey into Japan?
right. And they turned it into that.
Well, yeah, I can't argue
Yeah.
with that.
And but like with Logan, that was legitimately a great movie. Like a very great movie. To the point where I openly sobbed at the end of that movie. That was that was with whom the little girl that they had playing X-23. What was her name?
I thought she was great at what she did.
Oh, she was amazing. And the fact that like they said she riffed, a lot of that stuff was just off the cuff. That was just like they gave her this stuff, but they allowed her like the scene where they were in the Jeep and she was like telling him like where to go, and he was like no, and she just started punching him in the face. They were like, oh yeah, she just did that on her own. I was like, yes, because it made the scene like it was perfect.
So someone read up on the fact that Lara was uncontrollable. Good to
Right.
know.
Exactly. So yeah, which was perfect. Like, and that movie was so well done. It was it was just really good. If I were if Fox had decided to go that kind of direction with all the other movies, where one, the stories were good, two, they focused on the right things instead of trying to shoehorn so much stuff into it. Speaking of which, the because the Wolverine was the one that had Deadpool in it.
No, that was X-Men Origins, not the Wolverine.
Oh yes, there's been so much trash.
Don't even go there, dude. We already said that Sabretooth in that movie was good.
Yes,
Lee Schreiber was good.
He was perfect. He was perfect. You had two roles that were casted perfectly. Lara or X-23 casting
from Logan. Okay.
For Logan. Liv Shriver as Sabretooth, perfect. So much so that I would not be mad if they brought him back as Sabretooth.
I think they should bring him back as Sabretooth.
They should bring him, especially with this whole multiverse shit that they're doing now. But
and that brings us back full circle to what we're complaining about in terms of Endgame for folks who just tuned in. The multiverse theory now is going to be in full effect. And now, as you said earlier, it is now a MacGuffin for Marvel, the MCU, to kind of incorporate the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, if they want to do the what is it? Not the New Humans, the Inhumans.
The Humans, they already
trash
and just fucking shit it.
Because that was trash.
It was so bad. And like the thing was, what made it worse was the fact that they were like, yeah, this is gonna be the one. They shot that shit in IMAX.
Why?
And released it in IMAX as well.
No.
Which was like, what for what? One, these are characters that we don't have any attachment to yet. Like even in comic book lore, people don't really care about the Inhumans.
Nope, we just know Black Bolt can't talk.
Exactly. People, when you say, oh yeah, there's the Inhumans, like people know Black Bolt. That's it. They know Black Bolt from Planet Hulk more than anything else because he screamed at Hulk and Hulk was like, I don't mean shit to me. And clapped him real quick. But like, which I know they never will, but I wish they kind of did give us Planet Hulk because that was some of the best stories that we had.
You mean when he came back to Earth and said, y'all motherfuckers shot me into space?
The Illuminati specifically shot him out into space, which they essentially took that story and had it to whereas he shot himself into space in the current or prior MCU movies. That's why how he ended up on, in
Sakaar
on Thor Ragnarok. So, but like, if you don't read the comics, basically the Hulk had been causing too much damage on Earth, right? He's the Hulk. He smashes. So the Illuminati were like, all right, cool. We're going to go put you guys out on a, looking at your crotch, guy. So where you've got they sent him out on like this ship for like where he was supposed to go out and run some tests. And instead they were going to shoot him out onto a planet where he could be by himself and he could just chill.
Right.
No reason to be angry anymore, right? Well, the shit got fucked up and he ended up on a war planet. And he ends up like fighting in these arenas, and
it's the Hulk's wet dream, essentially.
Basically, yeah. He can go and just kill everything. So, but then he essentially gets married. He has a kid. Everything's cool. And then that world gets destroyed. And it's because of the ship that they sent him on. That's what basically what destroyed this planet. So he then takes this army that he has amassed of super strong people,
all the gladiators
from the pits that he was fighting in, and goes back to Earth. And it was like, oh yeah, all the Illuminati, oh, it's on site for all you niggas. He showed up in New York City and was like, everybody evacuate. I don't want to hurt anybody innocent, but heroes, all y'all are gonna get it. Like everybody's gonna get that work. Mm-hmm. He beat the fuck out of Wolverine. He made the Thing bleed. So the Thing's about rocks. He made the Thing bleed. He crushed Doctor Strange's hands. He beat him to the point that Doctor Strange called upon like forbidden demons to try and beat him, and he still lost. The Sentry, if you don't know who the Sentry is, he's essentially one of Marvel's many interpretations of Superman. Mm-hmm. He fought the Hulk to a standstill, and even then, the Hulk came back. Everybody that was anybody got. Yes. Until finally he was like, all right, this is, like it took the Sentry, and then it took a blast from one of Tony Stark's most powerful satellites to bring him down. So like, yeah, Planet Hulk. I hope we get a mini series or something like that one day. It's amazing. It's a great story. Fantastic. I mean, we've seen some of the characters from it, Korg and Meek. So those are like his lieutenants in the army. And his son Scar. Is another thing to.
He's a Thunderbolt too.
Yeah, Thunderbolts. I want a Thunderbolts movie actually.
Do you want Norman Osborn in the lead?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because I want Dark Avengers eventually. Because the Dark Event, like that could be not the big bad, but like, so say if this is the MCU is going to go for another decade, right? But for the next big event, like the Dark Avengers could be the halfway point. And then you give it to something else. Because the fact with the Dark Avengers but can't really do that right now because Sony has Venom. But like all of these different, like you'd have to establish Wolverine, and you'd have to establish the Ken.
Draken, his kid.
Is his kid. Mm-hmm. One of his, well, I guess that's his actual kid. His only biological, I did the deed kid. The rest of them are all like clones and shit.
Yeah. Then so you have to introduce Songbird and
a bunch of others. Yeah. But like, so you have that. But if you take the Dark Avengers, whom were the Thunderbolts prior, then you have to introduce the Sentry. And the Sentry, you'd have to introduce the Void if you bring the Sentry, whom the Sentry and the Void are two sides of an insanely powerful coin, essentially. We are on some wild comic book stuff right now.
We have sauntered into a different territory right now, my friend.
You have Venom, who takes on Spider-Man. So like all the Dark Avengers, you have the people that you know, all of the characters. So Iron Patriot is essentially the Iron Man of the group, who is Norman Osborn, shout out to Norman Osborn being one of the only white dudes that has waves. His waves is fucking killing it. Like wave check all day.
I've mentally thought that, but I've never said it out loud until you
Yo,
mentioned it just
he
now.
is like as a kid, I was like, how he gets hair like that? Because that's not just like curls and not.
And he's a redhead.
Oh yeah, it's like no, he's that's pomade. That's sporting waves, my good sir. But anyhow, so then you have the replacement for Thor was Ares. Then they would also have to introduce the Greek gods into things as well. Who else? There is the Captain Marvel replacement who was Songbird. Mac Gargan is the Venom that they have. Mac Gargan is a Scorpion, for those of you that don't know. Who else was in that shit? Hawkeye was Bullseye.
Bullseye. Mm-hmm.
Which in the Ultimate Universe, Hawkeye and Bullseye were one and the same. It was another thing.
So basically, we have a lot to delve into if Marvel wants to go that way.
If they want to go that way, there's a lot that they can do. Like if they want to introduce like a Superman-esque character, you have multiple ways that you can go with that. Like the two major comic book houses, DC and Marvel, all have like these weird either copies or just similar concept characters.
Right.
And so I already told you about the Sentry, but then you have another team, so Squadron Supreme.
Oh yeah, I remember them from the Avengers cartoon. Mm-hmm.
Right. And they were that's a serious thing. But let's see. It depends on who the writer is or what universe they're in, but they are they can be villains, they can be heroes. But Hyperion is the Superman.
He's Superman. Yeah.
But he is like, and the thing about all of the Supermen except for Blue Marvel, which that's a whole other.
Now you're really going deep
a whole other thing, because I'm gonna tell them about that before we get out. But so yeah, like almost all of the Superman clones, if you will, or interpretations are all batshit crazy. All of them are insane, which is more realistic. You have someone that comes to Earth that is just crazy powerful, and what are they going to do? They're not going to protect us. They're going to rule over us. What's that coming out soon? Brightburn, which is essentially what would happen if Superman was evil.
Oh, that horror movie with the kid who goes on a killing spree.
I'm ready for that. But anyhow, yeah, Blue Marvel was another thing, and this is the thing about the thing with the time travel and the multiverse would actually make it easier to introduce characters like this, especially the multiverse. So essentially, the whole thing with Blue Marvel was one of the first like big superheroes to come about. He is wildly powerful. He would fly around and do all this with a full-blown suit and mask on. Couldn't see his face, anything of that nature. This was in the 1950s, I believe. 1950s, 1960s. The issue is he was a black man. Nobody knew that he was a black man until once, like one day that they were out, when he was fighting his nemesis. It just slips my mind right now who it was. But his mask got ripped, and the public saw that he was a black man. And then now the public, this is, 1950s time, they didn't trust a black man to have that much power. Because now, not only the people of America, but the government was like, well, what happens if he sides with the Black Panthers? What happens if he sides with the civil rights movement? There would be nothing that we could do to stop him. So they essentially were like, okay, well, you can either, you can continue being a hero or, you can go away, basically. Because either you're going to have to do everything that we say and work for us, or you can go away. And he chose to go away instead. But yeah,
so his real name is Adam Bernard Bashir.
Yep.
Human Mutate. I'm looking through his Wow.
Which that's another thing. So you have people, when it comes to people that got powers, you have human mutates and then you have mutants. Mutants, you are born that way. Human mutates, you are affected by something externally. So the Hulk, he is a human mutate. Spider-Man, a human mutate because he was affected by an external force that changed his being.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a lot. There's so much stuff that we could go over and geek out about.
Yeah, and if people want to hear that down the road, we can make this a weekly thing where we geek out and we do like an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and a half of just nerd nonsense.
Yeah.
But I digress. Before we get out of here, is there anything wrestling light you want to throw out there for the wrestle fans who are tuning in to Highmark?
Wrestling, no.
The wild card sucks.
Yeah, wild card sucks. Dean Ambrose needs to learn to punch before he plays an MMA fighter in a movie.
For those who don't know, Jon Moxley's first project post WWE is in an MMA movie, which is executive produced by Christian.
Yeah,
from what I read. So that's interesting.
It's gonna be ass. I'm just putting that shit out there now.
But didn't Dean Ambrose star in 12 Rounds Part 2 or something like that? A WWE film, 12 Rounds.
Right. And those are just bastions of cinematic
Bastion boogers.
Greatness. That's
I'll say my 2 bits on wrestling right now for the week for me. What they're doing to the Revival with the Usos is garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It is juvenile, lowest common denominator humor, and this is all punishment because they have yet to sign their contract extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm them, I don't sign it, and I say, okay, I don't sign it.
Yeah, no, and
so yeah,
that's one of those things. AEW is going to be on TNT.
Yes, they did
on a
kind of virtually done that every Tuesday.
Yeah. So, you guys are about to learn some shit when it comes to contracts. I've told you this umpteen times before. If you think that this is just going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, it's going to be a rocky road in the beginning. It's going to be a very rocky road in the beginning because you've got 2 things going on. We're seeing it right now with the WWE because now they have 2 masters. Before, Vince could do whatever the hell he wanted. Mm-hmm. But now you have USA and now you have Fox. And with this whole the wild card nonsense, they're fighting over names, like big names being on each show. So that's why you have Roman Reigns showing up on both shows because both shows want him.
Right. And
that's the network that they're on. Because the network wants ratings, right? I'm gonna say this now. I would not be surprised if Fox kills that contract after about a year or so, if the ratings do not shoot up. Because as we've seen the past couple of weeks, Raw has been horrible.
Yep.
And the numbers have shown that.
Hot garbage, like we like to say here on the show.
Hot garbage.
Basura.
So like you have with that, like AEW is going to be held to the same thing. TNT is going to want ratings, bro. And if not just ratings, but TNT is going to want guarantees that people are going to be on these shows every single Tuesday.
Right.
And if this is live, especially if this is live, that's going to screw up a lot of people's indie bookings. Or if you have the people that are signed just to AEW, that is going to, you're going to start to see they're going to have contracts and people are going to have issues with them just like they do with the WWE. Because everybody's not going to be written perfectly. It's just not possible to write every single person perfectly. When you have things like injuries that constantly happen, travel issues, because when you sign all of this talent from places not inside the United States, that do not reside in the United States, that opens the door to a lot of stuff, a lot of bad things that can happen. Take, for instance, a few years back when Pentagon Jr. had his bag stolen. and couldn't make it in back into the U.S. for an extended amount of time because he had to go reapply, get a new passport, get new visas and all of that stuff. Get new masks and stuff like that made because they took all the shit. When you have issues like that, like they are going to have restrictive contracts. Just is what it is. That's just how business works. But hope it does well. I hope it does well because competition breeds the best things when it comes to creativity.
And plus, it just gives us as fans more options to
yeah.
view. I can tell you right now, because all we do now is we watch Wednesdays on the network.
Yeah.
NXT UK, Worlds Collide. Other than that, I have no interest in watching WWE as a whole.
No, like I'll catch the abridged version on Hulu or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not sitting through 3 hours of Raw. I'm not.
Oh,
especially when you have Vince giving me trash. Like Vince is continuously giving me just the worst stuff possible. Like it is with this revival stuff, kudos to them for working with it, but like it's bad. It's there. This is, unconscionable. What's going to happen is it's going to take people to sue. In order to get Vince out of power, people are going to have to sue him. And the thing about, since the WWE has their own legal department, they can run that into the ground.
Right.
But it's going to take like people that are backed by folks that have a lot of money. It's either going to take them to take Vince down, or Vince is going to have to he's going to have to be incapacitated with something in a way that he can no longer give his input on the show.
Right.
Sadly, and that whether that be some sort of illness or death, but there's no way that he is going to give this up. Like we saw the whole thing of Triple H liking a tweet that criticized, but he could be doing that just to mess with us. So, it's yeah, like I am at the point right now with the WWE is the same point that I got to with the UFC, where I was like I don't need to see everything anymore like I used to.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how done are you?
I'm at about like 3 or 4 at this point. Because it's just like, it's continuously just like, what the fuck we watching? Like before we had Lucha Underground. That shit ain't coming back.
Nope.
Like ROH, can't watch.
Still trash.
Impact,
you can't find it.
Like with this, okay, sure, we're gonna have something else. And like I see a lot of folks are like, oh, the feels nostalgia, but it's like, is it gonna be as great as you think it is? Like
no.
It's not. Like you're not going to be able to bottle what WCW had at the time because you don't have a war going on right now. Like the WCW,
and I think that's the mistake. If AEW tries to do the Monday Night Wars, I think that's the biggest mistake they could try to do.
Oh yeah, no, you're fighting a juggernaut now. It's not possible. Back then you had like 1 and 2,
mm-hmm.
but now you have 1 and nobody else. So like this isn't the whole David and Goliath thing. There is no magical rock that's gonna kill that. Like Vince has built pro wrestling to what it is now. He is the one above all, since we were talking about.
Nice reference.
He is the one above all when it comes to pro wrestling. So like what he says trickles down to everybody else. And he has molded pro wrestling fandom into what it is now. Even the little dickheads running around with the Bullet Club t-shirts. Vince molded y'all into that. Like it's, it is what it is. But like, yeah, it's hopefully I want it to do good because I do want there to be alternatives, not just for us as viewers, but for the performers themselves. You need to have alternatives so that you can always go elsewhere to make money, right? Because you can go and make money in Japan, but who's watching it outside of Japan, outside of a handful of people like Dragon's Gate and stuff like that? That's not going to be, you're going there just because you really love to wrestle, right? Like you're not going there for like recognition from people because that's a very small audience. Same thing, like as much as people love to talk about how big New Japan is, outside of Japan, it's still not that big. Like you go to anybody go to most people in, you know, in America and be like, hey, do you know about New Japan Wrestling? What? Who?
Right.
They'll know
Well,
what WWE.
that's why you never see a New Japan stateside show by itself without Ring of Honor being attached to it usually.
Right. You couldn't run you could run shows, but you're not going to have nearly as much of a turnout.
No, not at
Like
all.
they have niche name value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like once people like outside of this is a great anecdote basically from what that I saw the other day. So during the Met Gala, Dalton Castle tweeted out about Billy Porter. Billy Porter at the Met Gala came in and slayed. Like was amazing. He got carried in. For those of you that don't know who Billy Porter is, he is a former singer, current actor, he's a legend in the LGBTQIA plus community. He is just amazing. If you want to watch a very good show and you're open-minded enough to watch it, Pose is amazing. That's easily one of the best series I've seen in the past decade. But I digress. Dalton Castle tweeted out the picture of Billy Porter because he had all gold on with wings and all that type of stuff. And Dalton Castle tweeted out, "Oh yeah, you know," he put a picture of him being carried by the boys, and he has his hands out with the the wing stuff that he does. And then you have a picture of Billy Porter who was being carried out by a bunch of guys, and he's got the wings out and all that good stuff. Now, this is a concept that has been done so many times before Dalton Castle. But you look at the comments the replies that people had to Dalton Castle, they're like, who's Billy Porter? What? Like they were like, who's Billy Porter? This guy fucking stole your gimmick. What?
A simple Google search would have alleviated that for people, but apparently wrestling fans can't Google.
Like it is just like that's the thing. Like pro wrestling fans have been so, like I said, and I will harp on about this forever. You have had pro wrestling fans have had to disconnect from reality for so long because when you watch pro wrestling, you have to suspend disbelief because it's, I'm not going to say it's fake, but it's scripted. And they have no idea what actually goes out like in the world. No, they don't know who, what's actually going on out there. Right. Mm-hmm. And like when you have somebody that has been on some of the biggest TV shows of all time, and like even just looking at social media following, right? Dalton Castle's got 40,000. Billy Porter just on Twitter has like 90,000, 96,000, just because he's still relatively new to Twitter. Mm-hmm. But like if he's to go to any type of show anywhere, the place is going to be packed out to go see him. Like people of all walks of life are going to do it. But it's like this thing that we see all the time where like people are so out of touch with what everything is. Y'all are Vince McMahon.
And y'all are out of touch.
Completely out of touch.
I think that's a good place for us to end the show today because y'all are out of touch. Y'all qualify for the stop.
You're out of touch. Mm-hmm. I'm out of time. Whatever, that's a banger.
Oh God, I'm not even. Yeah, that's a different episode, dude. So again, for those who are just tuning into Highmark, Kat is not with us today. She is taking the day off. So you have been listening to Dio and I kind of expound upon the MCU, comics in general, now Billy Porter and Dalton Castle, and how Vince McMahon and the fan base, it seems, can be out of touch. So as always, find us on Twitter, DamonG347. I'm just DEO, SoundCloud. I guess now we're back on iTunes and iPodcast, what the hell they call it now. Mm-hmm. So we are now on other avenues and other venues. So you can find us there. And who knows, maybe we're going to start this whole Patreon thing that Kat suggested and we just start nerding out over there on that channel. But that's how you can find us.
Oh
Apple
yeah, I'll set up
Podcasts,
an
iTunes, all
OnlyFans
that.
for you guys too.
Say that again.
Said I'll start an OnlyFans for you guys too.
Oh no. I just found out what that was.
Then this weekend, things that Damien didn't know.
There you go. And that's for things that Damon didn't know. And we're going to try this weekend to get Kat on board. We'll have a regularly scheduled High Mark episode, and we can talk about OnlyFans. So thank you from everybody here at the show. We'll talk to you next time.